Read great books. We're going to talk about what great books are and why we should read them. When I was in middle school, I loved playing video games. Probably too much, because one day my dad said, if you read 1,000 books, I'll give you $1,000. Well, this blew my mind. I thought $1,000 was like a million. So I read as many books as I could as quickly as possible. I read every easy book in sight. I kept track of all the books I read in a pamphlet. But one day I started to become interested in thicker books, harder books, more difficult ones. And this slowed me down, but that was okay because I was enjoying these books. And then when I got to 500 or 600 books, I actually stopped counting. But I kept reading. And I've actually never collected the $1,000. So my dad's offer was absolutely brilliant. It turned me into a lifelong lover of reading and of books. And when I became a teenager, I started to realize that great books could be an amazing source of entertainment, knowledge, and wisdom. So what exactly is a great book? We're not talking about just any book. We're talking about the great ones, the very best books. Well, a guy named Mortimer Adler can really help us here. He was an educator in the 20th century. He wrote a lot of books on the classics, the great books, and he wrote a very famous book called How to Read a Book. I definitely recommend this book. I'm going to lean on it heavily in this lecture. So Mortimer Adler said that a great book is over your head. It's something that you can't fully grasp or appreciate, especially the first time you read it. A great book is rereadable, so you can read it many times and always get something out of it. A great book improves your reading skills. It actually demands that you read it on a higher level. And this is something Mortimer Adler shows you how to do and how to read a book. And it increases your understanding. So your understanding of reality, of what is true, of what's good and beautiful. And a great book can give you wisdom. It can help you live life well. Another educator, Leland Ryken, is very helpful on this topic. So he was a literature professor for many years at Wheaton College. He wrote a lot of books. He was actually the main advisor, I believe, in terms of literature for the English Standard Version Bible Translation Project, the ESV Bible. So he wrote a short guide called A Christian Guide to the Classics. I definitely recommend it. He said that a classic is something, a classic is a great book, something that has stood the test of time. People for many years, many generations, sometimes thousands of years, have recognized the book to be a classic, something that is worth reading. A classic or a great book is influential. So the people who produced the work, the civilization that produced it, recognized the book to be important and something that their own students should study. A great book is excellent, it's beautiful, it's the best of its category, both in terms of the content and the form. And it's profound. It can deeply move you. It can change your life. So why read great books? Well, Leland Ryken really helps us here. And he talks about how a great book or a classic is enjoyable. Now, maybe not the first time you read it. It might take some time to understand the book. But over time, as you start to understand the work, you're going to realize it is extremely entertaining, even more so than a movie. So I read the Iliad, a great book, a couple years ago. I read it in prose. It was kind of a difficult translation. It was from the 1800s, and it was difficult. But I read it a second time in poetry, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I started to understand it a little bit more, and I enjoyed the poetic form more. So I really, really was entertained by that book. Now, another reason is that a great book requires your best effort. So it's going to require your very, very best. And this is going to stretch you. It's going to make you a better thinker. And so this is a very good reason to read a great book. And the great book has great ideas in it, or a great thought. So this could be about justice, or love, or God, or human nature. J.R.R. Tolkien's book, The Hobbit, is about courage. So that book can help you to become more courageous. It can help you understand what courage is. And then a great book can help you understand human experience or the human condition, human nature. And a great book can give you wisdom. Okay, T. David Gordon, he wrote a book called Why Johnny Can't Preach. He's basically saying that Johnny can't preach because Johnny doesn't read. So he shows the importance of skill development. So a great book, reading in general, reading great books can help you develop intellectual skills. You can become a better reader by reading great books. And also, over time, a good writer, and then a good speaker. So he shows how those skills, reading, writing, and speaking, are related. So the more you read, the better you're going to get, and the better you're going to become potentially at writing if you pursue that. And then if you write, that's actually going to help you become a more articulate speaker. Okay, how to read great books. So let's focus on nonfiction works first, maybe an historical work or a biography or some area of knowledge. Okay, Mortimer Adler helps us. He says you should read the book conversationally. So the author is having a conversation with you. The author is making an argument. You need to think about that argument and have a conversation back with the author. Maybe the argument is true. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's partially true. You need to read actively, so in a demanding way. And we do this through questions, and Mortimer Adler has 4 recommended questions that you should ask. So these questions build on each other. So you need to understand the argument as a whole first. And then the last question is about significance. Is the book significant or not? Okay, read the book in community. So if you have a great book that you're trying to read, try to get a friend to read it with you and discuss the book. This can really help you understand it better. If you are studying a book of the Bible, study it in community with a small group at church. This can help you understand the book of the Bible more. And then read consistently. So even if you have only 20 minutes a day, maybe you're super busy, well, that's okay. If you read 20 minutes a day, you can get a lot read over time, and that can really make a difference. Okay, let's talk about fictional work. So instead of an argument, you're dealing with an experience. So a novel is essentially an experience. And so your questions are a little bit different. And Mortimer Adler talks about how to read imaginative works like novels in How to Read a Book. So he has a lot to say about this. So you're focused on the plot and the story world and the different elements of the book. And you're asking, is it good or bad? Is it beautiful? Why or why not? You can see the book on the right, Beowulf. This is a famous book, an ancient work. It's about a warrior named Beowulf, a Scandinavian warrior. He confronts a hell fiend named Grendel. And then eventually Grendel's mother. And then many years later, after he's been king for a long time, he confronts a dragon. A very important work. I definitely recommend it. Okay, how to pick great books. Well, first, look at your interests. What are you interested in? Maybe you're interested in literature or history or mathematics or philosophy or the Bible. I would say focus on your interests. Focus on the very best books in the area that you're interested in. But also read outside of your comfort zone. You'll find that you will become a better thinker and reader if you do this. Also, look at guides, so book lists, recommended book lists. So the book, How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler, has a long book list at the end. And Leland Ryken has a reading list at the back of his book, A Christian Guide to the Classics. I definitely recommend that one for high school students. That one's a little bit shorter. And I also recommend working through people. So maybe you know someone, a trusted adult, who has read a whole lot of the great books. Ask that person for recommendations. There's a movie about George Washington out right now called Young Washington. And a very interesting movie. There's a scene in which George Washington's older brother takes some books off of his bookshelf and gives them to George Washington to read. And those books really helped George Washington. So I definitely recommend asking someone you trust about what to read. Okay, strategy. Read older classics and read newer ones. And read a variety. Classics from different genres. History and literature and books of the Bible. C.S. Lewis, the author of the Chronicles of Narnia, he was a literature expert. He had this amazing quote. And then Mortimer Adler said something like this: it's better to read a few great books well than many books poorly. So maybe you're a slower reader. I'm not the fastest reader in the world. So this quote, or this paraphrase of his quote, is very helpful because it just shows that it's important to focus on, at the very least, a few of the great books. Really try to understand them. Don't try to just read as much as you can, as quickly as you can, because you might miss something. Okay, here's an analogy I'm going to give. It's the pyramid of books analogy. It comes from Mortimer Adler. So you can think of this pyramid as an analogy for books. So the base is kind of like most books. So most books are probably not worth reading. maybe read a book for information in this category, but you're probably going to never pick it up again unless you need to review it for some purpose. But then as you work up the pyramid in the middle area, this kind of represents books that are more important. Maybe you read them for understanding about an important topic. But as you work your way up to the pinnacle of the pyramid, the top, this kind of represents the very best books. And so these are just a few in comparison, maybe 100, maybe 500 or 1,000. But these books can really, really help you. And so I think it's important to focus on the very best. Okay, recommendations. I definitely recommend the Gospel of Mark. So this book will help you understand who Jesus is and his call to follow. It will help you understand the Bible. And this is the second book in the New Testament of the Bible. It's the first Gospel, and it's a short book. The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. This is a group of books, 7 books total. These are adventure classics, adventure fantasy works. They also have elements of King Arthur romantic literature in them and allusions to the Bible. Amazing books. And then Romans. This is a book in the New Testament. It's about the gospel, the good news of the Bible. So I recommend Mark and then Romans. And then a famous book of literature called Robinson Crusoe. This is about a man who shipwrecks and he is trying to survive on an island. And it's just an amazing book. There are scenes that I will never forget. My dad read it to me when I was a kid, and then I read it recently again. And this man makes many mistakes in his early life, and he has a lot of time to think about it on the island. And he is changed as a result of the time he spends on the island thinking about his life, and he picks up a Bible, he reads it. There's a scene in which he's trying to build a fortress because he doesn't know if anybody's on the island, so he's trying to defend himself, and the agony that he goes through to build that house is just incredible. I often thought to myself, I wonder if I would survive if I were in Robinson Crusoe's position. So it's an amazing book. And then an historical work, Land of Hope, An Invitation to the Great American Story. This is about American history. It talks about America's early years, actually before the founding, and then the founding itself, and then up to modern history. So if you understand America in general, I definitely recommend this book. It is absolutely wonderful. Okay, here are the credits. I really relied on these books, and the first two have really interesting book lists. Definitely recommend checking those out.